The History of the Santa Mystery by Papa Stash and Miss Jean. On parchment with quill, Eph wrote to himself, The History of the Santa Mystery. 'Twas the night before first grade, young Nick was in bed, when his father walked in, sat down, and he said,
Remember these words that I'm going to say. Hold on to your things and give nothing away.
Nick's father, a miser, made toys by the score, for rich folks to buy in a first-class toy store. The poor folks who worked there and made all the toys could not afford one for their own girls and boys. Their Christmases came and their Christmases went. Their children got nothing, not even a cent. Nick's father pinched pennies, and he was to blame. Like Scrooge in his story, Nick turned out the same. Nick seemed not too merry his first day in school. He sat in the back, and he felt like a fool. He hardly could wait till the end of the day, so he could go home, take his toys out and play. Nick pouted and cried as he said to his father, I learned nothing at all, so why should I bother? But father told Nick,
Now you know it's a rule. You must learn your numbers. They teach them at school. If you'll be a good boy, then here's what I'll do. I'll bring home a new toy. You can take it with you.
The next day in school, Nick brought in his new elf. It sat on his desk, the first elf on a shelf. On a cold, snowy day, Nick tried his new sled. He was ready to slide, but the sled slipped ahead. A boy tried to stop it, but Nick shouted, Don't! The boy stepped aside and told Nick that he won't. Nick slipped and he fell and he rolled like a ball. 'Twas nothing to stop his disastrous fall. His head struck a rock. It began bleeding indeed. Nick was the victim of his own selfish greed. Nick thought it a dream, looking up at the elf, floating high in a cloud, then looked down at himself in a hospital bed with his head wrapped in gauze as the elf started reading The Life of Nick Claus. I shall show you your life without any lies. You'll witness it all with your very own eyes. You played with your toys in your house on the lawn. Playing always alone made you sad and withdrawn. I showed you what's then, I shall show you what's now. You want to be happy, but never learned how. The children around you all playing a game, but you play alone, knowing no one's first name. And now to your future. Because of your greed, machines will produce, so no workers you'll need. You will never find love or have a fine wife. You'll be all alone with a miserable life. Nick woke up in his home. 'Twas almost Yuletide. The boy who had saved him stood by his bedside. His father beside him said,
Nick, your new friend, is a hero. He saved you. He is a godsend.
When Nick was all better and able to play, his friend came to join him. They took turns on Nick's sleigh. They whooped and they hollered and shouted with glee, then warmed up inside with some cookies and tea. His father had told him, never give things away, so he lent out his toys. Now his new friends could play. He made sure he kept track of what went and what came. In a book in his backpack, he wrote down each name. One day in school, Nick found a note on his chair. A girl asked him to lend her a new teddy bear. Later that day, to the factory he went, brought home a few toys, which he joyfully lent. The little girl's mother, bewildered to see a teddy bear sitting on her daughter's knee. Nick's lending his toy, said the girl, filled with joy. Her mother was happy, her baby's first toy. Soon all the first graders had borrowed from Nick. The whole school found out, and they wrote letters quick. Nick read the letters and lent toys to them all. The girls got a doll, and the boys got a ball. Nick checked his list once, and he checked his list twice, and for those who returned toys, they were checked nice. Naughty ones who kept the toys, 'twas really a shame, for they got a red check right next to their name. Many years had gone by when the old miser died. The way he did business no longer applied. Nick took piles of money from his father's saved stash and gave it to the workers, their well-deserved cash. A tradition began on each Christmas day. Nick had a big party and gave things away. Hot chocolate and cookies and all sorts of toys, trains, planes, and dollies, and trucks that made noise. When Nick was all finished, he jumped on his sleigh to visit the orphans and give more toys away. The children lined up like little ducks in a row, thanking Nick for his gifts with their faces aglow. The years came by slowly, oh how quickly they've passed. Elf hopped on Nick's knee, it was time at long last. I've watched you grow, Nick, into a fine gentleman. In Nick's ear Elf whispered, Nick Claus, here's my plan. I think you can help me, I hope that you will. Elf wrote not a word more on his parchment with quill. To this day what Elf said remains mystery, but now we all know Santa Claus history. Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Thank you, Moore. The end. Miss Jean and I hope you enjoyed the history of the Santa mystery. If you'd like to find more of my stories, you can see them on my YouTube channel, Papa Stash, or my Facebook page, Papa Stash the Storyteller.